Black and gold fans, college football fans, welcome in or welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where I examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape, but with a very special emphasis on our beloved black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome back, guys, folks, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. I'm your host, holla at your boy, Blair Parks, the usual host for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And this is my Week 6 preview and picks episode here on the channel. It's going to be a great week. I hope you're all doing excellent up to this point. Now, Week 6, I mean, it's depressing to say that. You know, the college football season is almost already halfway over with. We wait 8-9 months for this, and it just flies by. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our college football lives. But Week 6, big-time games coming up, big-time things at stake. And if you recall, I basically said that weeks 4 through 7, that is if you have watched my previous episodes, and if you haven't, I definitely think you should. I don't think you'll like them. I know you'll love them. But I coined weeks 4 through 7 as our 4-course college football meal. All right? And what's going to happen over those weeks is we are going to be provided some clarity, and things will start to come in focus as far as who this season is going to be the legitimate contenders and who are the pretenders and everybody else. So, Week 6 is our main course, and for those of you whose teams come out on the winning end this week, I hope that the steak or the chicken, the pasta, the fish, or for all you vegans out there, the tofu, whatever it is you order and whatever you sample and indulge, I hope it's awfully tasty. But for some of us, as far as fans who will be on the losing end of Week 6, the main course, we know it's going to leave a very, very bitter, sour taste in our mouth, and we will never, ever be patrons at that restaurant ever again. So before I say anything more, I'd like to just thank you for everything you've done. Black and gold fans, college football fans alike, the channel is absolutely blowing up. Everything is trending in the right direction. Likes, views, subscriptions, comments, shares, everything, all thanks to you. I am very, very gracious, and I thank you till to the end of the earth for your support, your attention, your time. But we need more subscribers. We are right there. We are getting ready to coast across the finish line. My second milestone for the channel was to reach 100 subscribers, and we are this short. We are sitting today as I record this episode at 97. 97, we're right there, folks. I need your help, so spread the word. Let's keep a good thing going and keep the momentum going our way. So, for Week 6, both our black and golds are in action. They're taking their talents on the road. Iowa travels to Illinois. Missouri travels to the Swamp to take on Florida. I'll have a little bit more on these games later in the episode. I also, at this point, want to send out a lot of thoughts and prayers to the victims and those affected by Hurricane Ian, the aftermath of it along the Sunshine State in Florida, along the Carolinas and the Gulf Coast. Like I said, I'm sending you nothing but good thoughts, good juju, and positive vibes. And also, I'd like you, the subscribers, the viewers, my fans, you know, my colleagues, my fanatics, to maybe say just a little prayer for yours truly, because tomorrow I do have a procedure. I am getting... Yeah, that's right. My masculinity is going to take a little bit of a nosedive tomorrow. I'm getting snipped. But I know it's a very routine procedure. But then again, anything in that area to me is not routine, guys, okay? So maybe just keep me in your thoughts for tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be fine. I've got my pills are ready, my numerous bags of peas are ready, my compression shorts, I'm ready for the aftermath and the recovery. So please feel free. Anything that you hear or see today that you want to comment, I always encourage comments and your involvement. And even from you fellas watching who have had this procedure, or you know of other friends or family members and it ended up being nothing, a walk in the park, I love to hear your words of inspiration and your stories, okay? That would kind of lessen my anxiety level just a little bit. But please do not share the horror stories with me. I don't want that. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't want none of that. All right? So here's the rundown for today's episode. As usual, I'm going to start with, very quickly, my Heisman update as far as going into week 6. I think those individuals, by their efforts, are on the Heisman shortlist. Give you an update of where they are, who they are in the standings. Followed by that, I have a very special Sound Off edition segment this episode. And this week it's more of a plea than a sound off, but just stay tuned for that. You're not going to want to miss that. And then we move into one of my favorite segments. We're going to move into trap games of week 6, and Admiral Akbar is in the building. And then I will move into the big segment of this episode, as it is every week, my previews and picks segment. So without further ado, let's get it. All right. So my Heisman Trophy candidates, an update entering week 6. From last week, there is no change to this short list, this roster. I have 5 individuals on it. And just to give you a heads up, it is very quarterback heavy. And those 5 individuals who have stayed there, there's no additions or subtractions from last week. I have Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers. He's kind of a newer addition. He joined the list last week. Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, USC quarterback Caleb Williams, and Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, who is day-to-day following a shoulder injury last week at Arkansas. Coach Saban is keeping it pretty close to the chest. We don't know if he's going to play this week. So if he is out for a game or numerous games, that absolutely is going to affect his status on my Heisman Trophy standing and updates list. So that's where I am with the Heisman Trophy candidates. If there's somebody that you think I should add or subtract, comment, like, share, subscribe to my channel. Please, take pity on me. That's the least you could do with me going under the knife tomorrow. That's the least you could do is subscribe, okay? Now my sound off segment for this week, it's more of a plea. If you've never tuned in to the channel for these episodes, usually sound off to me is a lot similar to if you're a Family Guy fan, when Peter had the What Grinds My Gears episode on the news, to where I take 3 minutes during the sound off segment and really will just say what I need to say what I want to say about any subject. It could be a negative or a positive action or whatever. It could be good, bad, or ugly. It could deal with teams or a team, a coach, a certain player, a player unit, fans, programs, whatever. It's really kind of a grab bag. But this week, let me go ahead and set the tone, and then I will start the clock on my phone. Is this week's subject of Sound Off is who can remain relevant and sustain success from early season upsets and results? Because right now, we're seeing big-time upsets each and every week. And there are some teams that traditionally aren't power players that have kind of put they've kind of put themselves in place to maybe play for the big prizes at season's end, but hopefully it'll be sustained. Because as we're seeing right now, that is not the cycle. That is not the pattern. So this week's Sound Off deals with that. So if I can go and get the clock ready, let's go ahead and get started. 3 minutes starts now. We need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the morning light. Thank you, Bonnie Tyler. That summarizes this. Who will rise from the ashes, the unknown, and shock the college football world and captivate our hearts like Cinderellas have of past seasons? I mean, when you look back on some of these teams that came out of nowhere and had dynamite, memorable seasons, I'm talking about Scott Frost last year at UCF when they went undefeated, Boise State's Fiesta Bowl victory over Oklahoma all those years ago, back in 2007, Northwestern's Big Ten title game and Rose Bowl appearance, 1996, starting off the year shocking Notre Dame in South Bend, Appalachian State back in 2007, defeating top 5 Notre Dame in the Big House as a member of the FCS at that time. BYU's national championship run in 1984 as a WAC member. That conference doesn't even exist anymore. Indiana in the COVID year 2020, they captivated our hearts. They were the story of the year. And how about Cincinnati's college football playoff run last season? Kind of came out of nowhere. We've seen several upsets this season, but that pattern keeps repeating, that not being able to remain and keep the momentum and stay relevant. I mean, Florida knocked off number 7 Utah in week 1. Appalachian State knocked off number 6, but Florida then has lost 2 games since. They've fallen off. Appalachian State knocked off number 6 Texas A&M in College Station. And then the next week they needed a walk-off Hail Mary to win against Troy, but lost 2 weeks later at home against James Madison. Marshall, the same week, defeated number 8 Notre Dame in South Bend, but the very next week they lost at home to Bowling Green. Tulane, the Green Wave knocked off Kansas State in Manhattan, the Little Big Apple. Next week they lost at home, I believe, to Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles. The big one, Middle Tennessee State, the Blue Raiders from the American Athletic, absolutely embarrassed number 25 Miami in Coral Gables, but next week lost to the UTSA, the Roadrunners. So we've had plenty of upsets, but these non-Power 5 teams have just fallen off. So this is what I want. Who can or wants to rise to the occasion? It could be 2 undefeateds that are remaining at the non-Power 5 level, the only undefeated non-Power 5 teams, both within the Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina or James Madison University. Air Force potentially in the Mountain West has 1 loss, a really good team. Can they end up playing for the big prizes a New Year's 6 or more? The Power 5 conferences, ACC, NC State, they have 1 loss. They need some help against Clemson, but they went out. They're looking for their first ever AP top 10 to finish the season. Duke, North Carolina, who are only 1 game behind right now in the ACC Coastal, they're right there. Teams that have not had a lot of success recently. And even Wake Forest. Yeah, they lost to Clemson 2 weeks ago, but they're right there after defeating Florida State last week down in Tallahassee. And the Big Ten, Maryland gave Michigan everything they wanted and more 2 weeks ago, but they came back, defeated Michigan State soundly. If they win out, they push Ohio State, Penn State, and knock them off. They could have a chance to play for big prizes. So could Illinois after beating down Wisconsin last week, which led to the firing of Coach Paul Christa, Wisconsin. Purdue after defeating Minnesota last week. They're in their run for the Big Ten West. So is Minnesota still with 1 conference loss. I mean, the wacky, Wild West of the Big Ten, we have currently a 6-way tie for first place. Everybody has at least 1 conference loss. The SEC, Kentucky is still there, even though they have a loss last week, a tough one at Ole Miss. Tennessee wins the last time they were relevant. They're undefeated, ranked in the top 10. Mississippi State is trying to keep pace in the SEC West. They're ranked at this time. Ole Miss, as I said, they're looking to maybe win the SEC West and play for the big prize, SEC championship potentially. And the Pac-12 out west, USC, that's right. They're ranked in the top 10, but when's the last time USC was relevant? They're there, as is UCLA. They find themselves ranked. When's the last time they really mattered? After defeating Washington last week. And Washington, yeah, they've got a conference loss, but they're still right there. They're going to have away. Everything is in front of these teams. And finally, from the Big 12, Kansas, who I think is one of the two biggest stories this year in the early college football. Kansas State and TCU are on top of the Big 12, these unusual suspects. So, who's going to rise to the occasion and bring home the bacon? That's this week's Sound Off. I went about, 30 seconds over. I'm getting close, guys. I'm getting close. I am long-winded, as some of you know. You guys who are weekly viewers, I do go long-winded. I mean, I wish I could say that in respect to other things. I'm not going to go there, though, today. But that's my Sound Off segment for today's episode. Once again, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with my takes. Or if there's a team that you think I should have added to this list or maybe removed, let me know. This is a safe haven for all college football fans. Anything and everything is welcomed here. You don't have to root for the black and gold. You don't have to be a Big Ten person. Just I welcome any fan who is willing and who wants to celebrate all things college football and share their passion and love with me for the greatest game we have in this nation. And I am very objective. You can tell I am not a Homer Simpson. Okay, for those of you who've watched, you know that. For some of you who this is your first time giving me a chance, you're going to see that. All right, guys, let's move into my favorite part of my preview and picks episode, exactly that. But before I get into the simultaneous previews and picks for the big games and off-the-radar games of Week 6, I've got to start with my trap games. And each and every week, I put a few teams on trap alert. Potentially, they find themselves in really good look-ahead spots for big-time matchups next week. Or coming off a big win, maybe they could have that emotional letdown that every team at some point or other has had. Can they maintain that momentum? Can they recalculate and reset? So these will be my big time what kind of games? It's a trap. Thank you, Admiral Akbar. You nailed it. Your one job on the channel, you got it done. So here are my trap games for upcoming Week 6. First of all, one of our black and golds. Missouri travels to Florida, as I mentioned. I'm putting Florida on trap alert because next week Florida hosts number 25 LSU, and Missouri, excellent showing last week, almost knocked off the number 1 team in Georgia. Florida, you better not be looking just to coast through. Missouri's going to come ready to play. Next game, Wisconsin travels to Northwestern, and I'm putting Wisconsin on trap alert. Here's why. They're not even a week removed from firing Paul Chryst, their head coach, their very successful head coach, over 70% winning percentage at Wisconsin, by the way. But, so I think Northwestern, folks, is bad. Okay, Northwestern and Nebraska, I think, are the only two teams who are not going to contend in the Big Ten West. But Northwestern has given Wisconsin a lot of fits the last few seasons. So they better not look past the Wildcats as they try to move forward from the firing of Paul Chryst. So look out, Wisconsin, you're on trap alert. Next game, number 12, Oregon travels to Arizona. I've got the Ducks on trap alert because next week, Oregon hosts number 18, UCLA. And to backtrack, rewind real quick, made a little gaffe there. Wisconsin is on trap alert because next week they travel to Michigan State, which in their minds might be a bigger matchup than dealing with the cardiac cats of Northwestern. And as you just saw there, guys, I do make mistakes. I make the occasional gaffe. I'm just a normal guy who's here just to share his hobby of college football with you. I don't do any dress rehearsals. I don't do any retakes or edits. I just click, record, end, upload, send, boom, that's it. I've already got a legit day job. I don't want another job. And doing all of that is work, and it's a job. Next game. So Oregon, you're on trap alert. Next, we've got Texas Tech travels to number 7, Oklahoma State. I've got the Pokes, the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. You're on trap alert because following, they look at themselves maybe in a big-time letdown situation after their big win last week at Baylor. So be on the lookout, Oklahoma State. Don't take Texas Tech lightly. They got a playmaker at quarterback. Next game, number 5 Clemson travels to Boston College to take on the Eagles at Chestnut Hill. I've got Clemson on Trap Alert for the same reason as Oklahoma State. Clemson's coming off a big win last week at home against NC State, the game of the year in the ACC, other than potentially the championship game. So Clemson absolutely in a letdown spot, so that's why they're on Trap Alert. And the last game I've got for this week's Trap Games, Washington State, the Cougars travel to number 6 USC. I've got USC on Trap Alert because they find themselves in a big-time look-ahead spot. Next week, USC travels to number 11 Utah, which is going to be one of the biggest games in the Pac-12 this season. So do not be looking ahead, USC. Washington State should have held on and beat Oregon a couple weeks ago. They've already gone to Madison to beat Wisconsin at home in Camp Randall, which is a very daunting feat. So USC, you're on Trap Alert. Do not take the Cougars lightly. And thanks, guys. That is this week's list of... It's a trap. There we go. Admiral Akbar, get yourself a raise. In the meantime, before that, go grab a squid or two to eat. All right. So that's this week's Trap Games. Now, guys, let's go ahead and move in to my favorite part of this episode, my Week 6, my simultaneous previews and picks of my games. Let me get a quick drink here and toast, a prost, salute to all of you. All right, so if this is your first time tuning in for my preview and pick segment, each and every week I pick 15 games that I'll preview and select and pick from. Some of these are the big-time matchups that you know about. Some will be kind of off-the-radar games that I think you need to pay a little bit of attention to, because I think ultimately they could end up counting for a lot more than what meets the eye. You know, they're more than meets the eye, like Transformers, okay? Once again, I do make a lot of pop culture references on this channel. I just do, because I know my nerd and my dork is kind of showing. Not something else, dork. I didn't say another thing, okay? So before you censor me, I said my dork is showing, okay? And my nerd. So what I've set for myself, this season I've set a goal of, at the end of the regular season, I want to be 70% or better. Overall, last week I went 12-3. I had a really good week. That's good for 80%. Now for the season up through week 5, I sit at 47-28. Good for 63%. So I'm going back in the right direction. I need a couple of more weeks like I had last week, and I think I'll be right there near that 70%. But at that point, I need to maintain, which is way more difficult than getting to a goal, and it is. And this week, I am joined by another guest picker. That's right. Pretty soon, the second annual, because this is only the second season that I've been on air with you, the second annual Touchdown Black and Gold Vlog Guest Picker Tournament will commence. So these are the early stages, which will go towards seeding during that tournament. Last week, my former co-host and Missouri fan number 1, Charlie, was the guest picker. He went 11-4. Not a bad week there for Charlie. So after 3 guest pickers, Brett and Charlie, Brett was last year's champion. They tied at 11-4. And my brother Anthony, he went 8-7. This week, he joined me last year, is my colleague, coworker, bro, dude crush. You know, he's very easy on the eyes, a Matt Damon lookalike, ladies and gentlemen. My friend Brad will be joining me as the guest picker. I've got his picks and some analysis here in front of me. And another thing, just to let you know that within these 15 games, I always pick 6 spotlight games. I will always do an Academy Game of the Week, which is going to include one of the 3 academy squads, Army, Air Force, or Navy. I will always do a non-Power 5 matchup of the week. I will also do an FCS matchup of the week. I love the quality and level of play at the FCS Division I level. Whenever our black and golds play, I will always pick every Missouri and Iowa game. And then after that, I will have my premier spotlight game of the week, the biggest game of the week to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's get it. All right. So the first game up on today's docket, big time game in the Big Ten. Purdue travels to Maryland once again. That's why I had that sound off segment, because a lot of the teams that I mentioned in there is who can maintain, who can step up and put themselves in a better position, the unusual suspects. A lot of them are included within this week's picks. So Purdue at Maryland. I'll let Brad start off. He thinks Maryland's got too much offense. He likes the Terps at home. Me, I like this Purdue team. I did say preseason that on my bold predictions episode that the Purdue-Minnesota game would be the biggest game within the Big Ten West this season. And I said I believe whoever won that game would win ultimately the division. I still think Minnesota's a better team. But I think Purdue is offensively good, but they're really just a one-trick pony. They won't run. They don't want to run. It's not in their DNA. I think Maryland can score. They'll spread them out. One of the 15 best quarterbacks in the nation. Actually, both of these cats, Tagovailoa and Aiden O'Connell. But at home, I'm also taking Maryland, so we're both with the Terps this week. Next game, number 8 Tennessee travels to Death Valley to number 25 LSU. What a game in the SEC. One of the toughest venues to play, a raucous crowd there in Baton Rouge. For me, I'll start this one. You guys know me. I am high, super high on this Tennessee team. I am drinking the Kool-Aid. I think they are a legitimate challenger and the team that could overthrow Georgia in the SEC East. I love Hendon Hooker. He's one of my Heisman guys. I think they find a way. Normally, only a team by the name of Alabama goes to LSU and wins, but I'm taking Tennessee on the road. I think they get it going. They're coming off a bye week to prepare. Brad, he's with me. He also likes the Volunteers, the checkerboards to bring home the victory. So we're both with the Volunteers on this game. Next is a big tilt in the Big 12, but it's definitely lost a lot of its luster this season. I'm talking about the Red River Showdown or rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma, which happens in Dallas each and every year. Both of these teams come in, find themselves both unranked, already with at least one conference loss. Oklahoma has 2 already. So this to me is an elimination game. Blah, blah, blah. Let's try that again in English. An elimination game within the Big 12. Oklahoma, they lose. They're absolutely done with 3 losses. And I think Texas also. So whoever wants to stay relevant in the Big 12, you've got to win this game. Brad, he likes the Longhorns. He likes Bevo to bring it home. Me, it seems like Dylan Gabriel is not going to play for Oklahoma, their quarterback, who was knocked out last week in just a really, really nasty-looking hit against TCU while he was sliding. Not a dirty hit. It was on accident, but still a nasty-looking hit. But even if he was back, I don't care who's QBing for Texas. Give me Hudson Card. Give me Quinn Ewers, who might return after a shoulder injury. Either way, I'm taking Texas. So we're both taking the Horns in this year's matchup. And I think they'll have a little bit of revenge in them. Will Texas? Next game, a big-time game in the Pac-12. Another one of the teams I mentioned during sound-off. Number 11 Utah travels to the Rose Bowl to take on number 18 UCLA. Huge game in the Pac-12. UCLA, I think, needs a lot of help to get into college football playoff scenarios. Utah is still right there, but if they lose this game, it's going to be very difficult for them to stay in that position. Brad, He thinks Utah is just way too physical. He's taken the Utes, the two Utes. He's liking Utah. Me, Utah, they were one of my preseason college football playoff participants. I haven't lost faith in them, even though they're without their stud tight end the rest of the season. I think they go to the Rose Bowl and just enforce their will. UCLA likes to play the same kind of way with running back Charbonnet, but I think Utah, no one out-Utahs Utah. So I'm taking the Utes as well. We both like Utah in this game. Fifth game up, another big-time matchup. One of my trap games was number 12 Oregon travels to Arizona. Can the Wildcats pull off an upset? We all know strange things happen in the Pac-12 after dark, especially in the desert. Ask any Big Ten or SEC fan when their teams have traveled out to the desert to play either the Wildcats or the Sun Devils. Weird stuff happens, okay? And it is the month of October. Halloween is almost here. Me, I like the Ducks. I think they're just too much firepower for the Wildcats, who are absolutely improving under second-year coach Jed Fish. I think he's doing a really good job. Brad, he also likes Oregon in this matchup as well, so we're both taking the Ducks. Next game, big tilt in the MAC conference, and I think ultimately the winner of this game will win the division in the MAC. The Toledo Rockets travel to the Northern Illinois University Huskies, the game in DeKalb. Wow, it looks like Rocky Lombardi is back for the Huskies at quarterback. I'll start this one off. Like my brother said a couple weeks ago for picks, it's tough to root against a guy named Rocky. So me, I'm taking Adrian. I'm going with NIU, the Huskies, a team that I'm very high on. All of the experience they have back. Last year's MAC, the defending MAC championship team. I like NIU. And Brad, he likes Toledo's offense. Really up pace. They can put up points. Very solid program. But at home in DeKalb, he's taking the home team. We're both taking the Huskies of NIU in this one. Next game, a big-time matchup of independents. That's right. The two legitimate biggest independents in the nation meet up in Sin City. That's right, in Las Vegas. Number 16, BYU, faces off with Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. And I'll let Brad start this one. Wow, Notre Dame is playing much better. Last couple weeks under their coach, they have bounced back under Coach Freeman. First couple games of the season, a little bit rough around the edges. They do have a backup quarterback in there. They are playing better, but that being said, Brad has taken the Cougars of BYU. Gunnar Romney is back at wide receiver. He came back last week, gives them a little bit more, another weapon on offense. Me, you know who I'm taking. I said this during my bold predictions episode preseason, that BYU will be the best independent in the nation this year, and this is going to cement that. I'm liking BYU. BY who? BYU. We both like the Cougars in this matchup. Next game up, a game that really has lost a lot of firepower in headlines. I'm talking Texas A&M travels to number 1 Alabama. All I'm going to say about this is going to be Alabama, and a lot more Alabama. I think this is going to finally put into motion and prove what I've been saying for years, that even though Bryce Young may not play, it's not going to matter. Alabama wins and wins big. I think Jimbo Fisher is a fraud. He's the fake news. I hate to make a political reference. This is not a political channel. He's the fake news. All of you at A&M, you've been duped, and now it's going to be exposed. I like Alabama, and all Brad simply says is roll Tide. So we're both taking Alabama. Now, big matchup in Conference USA. We've got the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers travel to the UTSA, the Roadrunners. Big-time game within the conference. Really, at that point, it's going to kind of signify who the top dog in the conference is. I'm going to start off Frank Harris, he's a stud, the UTSA quarterback. It's in the Dome, the Alamo Dome there in San Antonio. I'm not betting against them. I'm taking the Roadrunners to get it done, to run all over the Hilltoppers. I mean, whatever the hell their mascot is, I think he's awesome, but still don't really know what he is. Brad, he's also on board the UTSA bandwagon as well, so we have an agreement on that game. Next game is my first spotlight game of my Week 6 picks. And by the way, at this time, please subscribe to the channel. Please help me out. Take pity on me. I'm going under the knife tomorrow, as I said. We need to get to 100 subscribers. We're this close. Like, share, comment. Let me know what you think about some of these picks, if you agree or disagree on my previews of these games and teams. I always encourage any feedback. You're always welcomed here. So my first spotlight game is my Academy game of the week, my salute to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Army travels to Wake Forest. Last year, this was just fireworks aplenty there in upstate New York. But this time, I think Wake Forest is really firing on all cylinders. I know Wake is ranked. I don't have that in here. So a ranked Wake Forest squad. I think Sam Hartman, their quarterback, he keeps playing the way he is. He will find his way to my Heisman Trophy shortlist as far as standings and update. So I like Wake big in this one. I think they'll be more prepared for the triple option this year than they were last year. So I like Wake at home in Winston-Salem. And Brad, he's the same thing. Too much firepower, too much for Army. We both like the Demon Deacons, one of my favorite mascot names, by the way, in all of college football. Next game up, the non-Power 5 matchup of the week. A big-time game, another team I mentioned in my sound-off portion. James Madison University, JMU, travels to Arkansas State to take on the Red Wolves. James Madison is the co-best story so far early in this year, in this college football season, along with Kansas. I think they are the two favorites by a long shot. They're the stories of the year so far. If you have forgotten or don't know, this is James Madison's first year at the FBS level. They basically made this determination and this decision in 1 year, when normally when teams make that jump, they plan it years in advance to prepare. They did not, and they find themselves sitting here 4-0 overall. What a story. What a year so far for James Madison. I'll let Brad start. He's all about JMU. I mean, a great team at the FCS level, still a really solid team now. It's hard for him, he says, to bet against the Dukes. He's taken JMU. Love this team. They've got everything going on in James Madison. That being said, unfortunately, I think this week it comes to an end. Cinderella, it's about to chime midnight for James Madison. I just think, I've got a feeling that the Wolves of Arkansas State get it done. They pull a big-time upset, and they party like it's 1999 in the streets of Jonesboro, Arkansas. So that's right, I'm taking Arkansas State. Give me the Wolves. Next is my FCS matchup of the week. Big-time matchup within the Big Sky Conference. Via the FCS rankings, we've got number 21 Eastern Washington. The Eagles leave home the red turf and travel to number 7 Weber State. Love this team. These teams, actually, they have good pedigrees, solid programs. Weber State, last few years, has been constantly in the top 10. I can't go against Weber State. If you remember the big time, sorry, North Carolina fans, I got to bring it up. You know, the first round, I believe, of the NCAA tournament all those years ago, Weber State and James Arsenault, the show, take down the Tar Heels. Ever since then, I've been a fan of Weber State. Give me Weber State. Brad, in this game, he's going the other way. He's taken the Eagles of Eastern Washington off a short week. They ended up playing Florida on Sunday because of Hurricane Ian. He's taken the Eagles, so we'll see how that one turns out. Now, next spotlight game is my first of two games, including our beloved black and gold squads. First up is Missouri traveling to Florida. I'll let Brad start this one. Wow, Missouri showed a lot last week after a really potentially season-crushing loss 2 weeks ago at Auburn. They came back last week, gave the number one team in the nation everything and more they could handle, almost pulled off the upset at home in Como, lost 26-22, a great comeback showing for Coach Drink and the entire squad. Because of that, and Missouri's had a lot of success against Florida since joining the SEC. That's right. Brad likes our black and gold to go on the road. He's taken Truman, MIZ-ZOU to get it done over Florida, coming off a short week as well against Eastern Washington. And their defense has been suspect, guys. It has. So he's taken Missouri. Me, I wish I could. I need to see at least one more game, and I think I will end up regretting this pick. But if Missouri comes out the way they did last week against Georgia, against Florida this week, they'll bring home the W. But I need to see one more outing from them to pull the trigger. So at this point, I'm taking Florida by a hair of my old chinny chin chin. So unfortunately, I'm taking the Gators at home in the swamp. Next game is the other black and gold. Iowa travels to Champaign to take on upstart Illinois. What a game this is going to be. I mean, huge implications for the Big Ten West. I mean, all of a sudden, Illinois finds themselves a contender after beating down Wisconsin last week, 34-10 in Madison and Madtown. And the next 2 weeks are huge for Illinois, guys. Huge. They have Iowa this week, and then next week they host Minnesota. Back-to-back huge home games. And if Illinois wins those games, they're going to have head-to-head tiebreakers over Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. So both teams have a lot to gain from this game. Whoever wins has a lot to gain. I think Illinois has more because Iowa, this game, then they have an off week. All right? So both teams have a conference loss already. This is a tough game for me to call, guys. Tough game. Illinois is going to try to out Iowa. That's what Coach Brett Bielema does. He's physical. That's what he believes in. Control the lines of scrimmage, pound the rock, body blow after body blow, drag you into a phone booth, into a rock fight. But coming off last week's victory, I just don't know if Illinois is ready to sustain success having two big-time games like that, 2 wins, even though Iowa has owned this rivalry as of late, not even been a rivalry. So because of that, I might end up getting it wrong, but I picked Iowa preseason to win this game, and I said was going to be a very close game. I'm sticking with Iowa. I think they had some good things last week at home against Michigan. I think their offense continues to maybe make a little bit of stride. I just don't think Illinois is going to out Iowa this year. I'm taking the Hawks. Big-time victory on the road in Champaign over Illinois. Go Hawks. Brad, he simply says, Iowa, score some damn points. We all know about the Iowa offense's struggles. I mean, quite frankly, those of you who think that Iowa's offense would have trouble scoring in a $2 cat house, you're absolutely right. So, yep, we're both taking the Hawkeyes in this game. So hopefully they come through. Now, here it is. The final game of this week's picks is the premier spotlight game of the week. It includes 2 teams that were in my sound-off segment. Biggest game maybe ever in the history of the Kansas program. Game day is in Lawrence for the first time ever. I'm definitely going to be watching that Saturday while I'm on the mend recovering from my number 17 TCU travels to number 19 Kansas. Love this matchup. Kansas, one of the biggest, best stories of the young college football season. As I've mentioned, TCU, I picked them preseason to be in the Big 12 title game. They're not letting me down so far. A team that's very physical, experienced. Max Duggan, their quarterback, is a complete, absolute gamer. It's a sellout in Lawrence. What a big-time moment for Kansas. Can they sustain it? Will they? That being said, I'm taking the Horned Frogs. That's right. I just think the Kansas magic runs out this week. And then very quickly, attention will be drawn back to the upcoming basketball season at KU. But I hope Kansas does not fall off a lot. But I just think that TCU, with that experience, and they are upper-class, fifth-year senior laden as a team, I think they find a way to get it done on the road. But Kansas, it's been a great season. I just don't want potentially one loss for KU to become 2 or 3 or more. Stay relevant, stay in the discussion. But I like TCU in this one. And Brad, he echoes everything I say, except one big difference. He likes the Jayhawks. He wants Cinderella to live another hour. She's still in the glass slippers. He says, Kansas, just keep winning. And that's coming from a Missouri fan, guys. Brad is Missouri fan number 2 behind Charlie. It's tough for them to say that, being their arch rival. But Brad's taken Kansas in this matchup. So that's my Week 6 preview and picks. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see how we both do. Well, folks, that's it for today's episode. Sorry I went a little bit long. I try to keep these at 45 minutes or under. Please subscribe, click the button, share, rate, comment, everything. Like, do anything and everything you can is muchly appreciated here by me and by the channel. This is all possible due to you. So thank you very much for all that you do. Once again, wish me luck. And next week, we'll definitely be looking out for my Week 6 review and recap episode. That'll be posted either Monday night, if not Tuesday afternoon. But before that, if I'm feeling up to it, based on the pain meds and where I am, Saturday, since I'm doing nothing but vegging out and watching football all weekend, even some NFL action, I might even do a little bit of overtime. I might do both a Missouri and an Iowa instant reaction and recap episode for their games. So, be looking out for those, and thank you once again. And until I see you and talk to you next time, as always, I wish you peace, progress, prosperity. Enjoy the rest of your day, your week, your weekend. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the main course. Until next time, thank you for joining me on this very big-time episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold Vlog. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.